Welcome back. In this step, we would start with something called a one-to-one relationship. A student can have one passport and the passport can be associated with one student. This is called a one-to-one relationship. So now I would want to connect Ranga with his passport. His passport is E123456. How do I do that? There are two ways you can actually do something of that kind. Here I can create a field called passport ID. So in the student table I can create a field called passport ID. Or the other option is in the passport I can create a field called student ID. So these two options, any of them would work. So either I can create the column in the student or I can create this column in the passport. What I can do is in student create a passport underscore ID and populate the ID. So I can say 40,001. Now when we look at the data, we can easily now say that this particular passport belongs to Ranga. So we can say 40,001. So this is Ranga's passport number. When you have passport ID here, then student table is owning the relationship. So it said that student table is now owning the relationship. So it has the passport ID. So it's said to be owning the relationship. The other way we can do this is the passport column having student ID. So student ID and student ID is 20,001 for Ranga. So here it would be 20,001. In this kind of a situation, the passport is said to be owning the relationship. Let's shift our attention to defining this relationship between our entities. So let's go to Eclipse. I'm opening up the student and the passport entities. There is one-to-one relationship between the student and the passport. So the way we can define that is by saying private passport. So a student can have one passport. So I'll say private passport, passport. That's cool, right? And on the reverse side, a passport can be associated with one student. Let's not really get there yet. Let's just focus on the student. So a student can have one passport and this passport relationship is 1-to-1. So I'm using the 1-to-1 annotation which is present in JPA. So JPA persistence 1-to-1. Let's see what would happen now. Let's restart the application and see what would happen. Cool, the application starts up fine. And let's go to the H2 console, refresh it, select start from student. You can see that now the student has something called a passport ID. The student table now is owning the relationship. The passport ID is present. Where is it present? It's present with the student. Don't worry about all the data which is present in here. It's still null. So that's not a problem. We'll fix that very soon. How can we fix that? We would now need to add in another column in the student. So until now we are only inserting ID and name, but we want to associate it with a passport as well. Now I would want to add a passport ID as well. Passport ID. Passport ID. And the passport ID is what is present in here. 40,001, 40,002. Other one is 40,003. Let's go ahead and put it in here. When I'm inserting the student, I'm saying passport ID is 40,001. But inside the passport table, 40,001 is not yet defined. So I would need to first insert the passport as 40,001 and then I can say this student uses the row 40,001. So I would want to insert the passport first and then the student. Let's see what would happen now. Let's start the application again and refresh our H2 console. Select start from student. Now has the passport ID populated as well. If you're familiar with using joins, then the way we can retrieve the data for both student and his passport is by saying select start from student comma passport where student dot passport ID is equal to passport dot ID. So this would get all the details of both the student and the passport together. So I would get student ID 2001 Ranga passport is 40,001 and the passport number is E123456. So we can use this query to get all the details of a student, including his passport. Let's quickly review what's happening in the log. So if you look at the log right now, we create the course table, we are creating the passport table, and you can see that the student table, as we saw in the H2 console, has a field called passport ID. And also you would see that there is a constraint added in. It says the student table has a foreign key called a passport ID. What does that mean? So what we are saying is the passport ID is a foreign key. A foreign key is nothing but a ID of another table. So this passport ID is the ID in the passport table. It's the primary key in the passport table. We take the primary key in the passport table and use it to reference that passport in the student table. In these kind of situations, the passport ID is called a foreign key in the student table. In the student table, passport ID is a foreign key. 40,001 is a foreign key. Typically, the foreign keys are primary keys in one of the other tables. In this situation, this passport ID is the primary key in the passport table. So what is happening is the passport table gets created and the passport ID is used as a foreign key in the student table. We are using the passport ID to reference the passport of a student. Instead of putting all the passport details in the student table itself, what we are doing is we are creating a separate table for passport and using the ID from that table as a foreign key in the student table. In this step, what we looked at is how we can define a one-to-one relationship using JPA. In the next step, we would talk further about the one-to-one relationship. Until the next step, bye-bye.